Hi friends. When we read the Gospels, it doesn't take long to realize that Jesus makes some perplexing statements. The entire Sermon on the Mount in the Gospel of Matthew is one example. Here's a sample from Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 through 44. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, give your coat as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile. Give to the one who asks of you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. On the surface, the challenge with the difficult sayings of Jesus is to understand what he meant by them. Now, I fully embrace studying the words of Jesus in the context of the Jewish faith, in the setting of first century politics, in the interpretation of Jewish idioms and the Aramaic and Greek languages, and in Jesus' understanding of the kingdom of God and all those other things. But honestly, I don't think that the problem is that we don't understand what Jesus meant. I think that the problem is we do understand what Jesus meant and we don't want to do it. Living our faith, thinking, speaking, and behaving according to the teaching and example of Jesus is a challenge. It calls us to be generous and gracious, selfless, forgiving, and loving, none of which comes naturally to our base human tendencies. But all of it is essential to being an authentic disciple of Jesus. The difficulty is not understanding what Jesus meant when he said things like turn the other cheek, love your enemies, and pray for those who persecute you. We know what that means. The difficulty is in actually doing it. The truth is, Jesus meant what he said. So much so that he gave his life for it, and he lost his life doing it. These sacrificial, selfless characteristics and behaviors are the authentic marks of a follower of Jesus. Let's be realistic, though. Do Jesus' teachings really work in today's world? Jesus' teachings are beautiful and they are provocative, but are they practical? We live in a world that's characterized by cynicism and power-grabbing and violence. What possible relevance do attitudes of meekness, peace, and humility have in our lookout for number one culture? Some people suggest that Jesus' ethic of selflessness is intended for our personal and spiritual life, not our public and political life. It's one thing to practice religion that way, but it would never work to run a workplace or a village or a country that way. Now see, I don't think that's what Jesus intended. I know it sounds impractical and maybe a bit naive, but I wonder if Jesus' ethic of selflessness just might work to make our workplaces and communities and world better, safer places. I mean, wouldn't it be harder to attack a country that served you and promoted your good than one that hoarded resources and left you to suffer? On both small and large scales, we can make the world a better, safer place by having the courage to do the difficult things that Jesus taught. Responding to harshness with kindness, cruelty with tenderness, hurt with forgiveness, adversity with perseverance, and hate with love. Thanks for listening. I'll see you again next week.